Welcome to the latest episode of the Auto Futurecast with me, Chris Kirby, in association with Tomorrow's Journey and Asset Finance Connect. Today we're joined by Bodo Philipp, the CEO of MHP Consulting here in the UK. Bodo, welcome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for making the journey across town to meet with us today. First of all, tell us a little bit about MHP, just sort of set the scene for the people who don't know who MHP are in the market.
So our headquarter, so Chris, first of all, thank you for having me. MHP has its headquarter in Germany, in Ludwigsburg, right next to Stuttgart. Mm-hmm. Has its heritage in the SAP business. Mm-hmm. So this is where it started in the beginning of the 90s, last century. And it evolved from there, becoming a company as of today with 4,500 people. And we have three core services that we are providing as a digital consulting company, as we are. So we have consultancy. This is the first branch. The second branch is where we develop tools. So technical tools, software, everything that is connected to that is part there. And the third pillar is managed services. So we are also running services to this. And let me say what we are offering is an end-to-end solution. So solution-orientated, technology agnostic approach to cater to whatever is needed in the industry, focusing on the automotive space. So coming from big OEMs, but also catering to everybody that is in need for services in that space. So digital transformation, end-to-end solutions. If you want to put it in a nutshell.
Yeah, nice. Okay, and covering a broad spectrum, and let's say with those roots in the automotive. And today we're going to cover loads of really interesting stuff today, and stuff really close to our hearts around the kind of digital buying experience. Mm-hmm. But maybe just starting off, one of the things that kind of brought us first together was talking about the survey that you guys have conducted multiple times now, but just looking at kind of that online buying experience. So tell us a little bit about the kind of origins of that, I guess, and kind of where that's come from.
Well, we have seen that, let me say that there is this trend of moving the overall customer experience into the digital space, also pushed by the COVID pandemic, for sure. And we see also there that this trend is ongoing, that also the technology is evolving in terms of experiencing the product itself in the digital space becomes much more convenient now. The bandwidth has risen, so everything around that has just been evolving. So the online purchasing experience is now also, let me say, moving into that space of this high complex product as a car. I mean, everybody goes online to buy at Amazon, and it's easy to buy your daily stuff there. And but the experience is now evolving into that space. So to understand, because it is the most complex product, consumer product out there, so the journey, the purchasing journey is also as complex as it is, because you are covering, let me say, every age of somebody who's driving a car. So it has to cater to that purpose as well. And since it is also a product very highly you spend a lot of money on that, so you need to understand also the details of the product itself. So let me say, everything that is evolving is turning. So that why we need to understand what is driving this these factors, and how can we cater to this with our digital services. That's why we keep on going. We see how the trends are developing. And this is why we are paying so much interest into that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, clearly it doesn't take any kind of expert to understand that people are moving to buying things online, or have moved to buying things online. It's clear that ship has sailed. But obviously, as we know, working in the space, buying a car is complex. Yeah. Probably more complex than it should be, in my opinion. Like we've made it complex over the years by adding lots of layers of different things and services, and relationship with dealers and OEMs and all of that stuff, which somehow has to be simplified into an online journey, because we can't make the journey as easy as buying on Amazon, but also a customer's never going to one-click buy a car either. So somewhere in between. But definitely starting to see some of the trends shifting in the customer. So from your survey, kind of understanding that actually some people are now starting to transact more online, and that percentage is increasing. Is that kind of how you guys are seeing it?
Yeah, exactly. So that is obviously increasing. heavily. I mean, we have since 2020 when we started doing the survey, we have an increase of 144% in that space, and also we see that from potential point of view, because we conducted the survey in Germany, but I think it's something that can be also reflected to the rest of the European market. We can also see that we are expecting 30% of all the asked customers to buy a new car pretty soon. Yep. So that we see also that the trend itself for new cars is still remains. Not just only the service, but also buying a new car still remains, and that's why we have to look also into that.
Yeah, interesting. And I think there's that gap between completing a sale online and researching online. So I guess now we're in a situation where very few people buy a car without having a look at something online, a YouTube review or visiting a manufacturer website. But there's quite a big gap between that and kind of completing an online sale, I guess, in where we are today. Is that kind of thing that you guys are seeing, and what are those kind of barriers or
so first of all, I think we have to divide exactly that whole journey. Let me say from I want or I'm interested in a car until purchasing a car has to be divided into two chapters, as you just said. So for one thing is, let me say, the discovery or the information that I'm doing, and the next thing is to do the purchase itself. It's quite interesting if you look into tech companies, how they do this. I mean, take one that is very obvious is Apple. If you look into Apple, they have divided the complete. If you go on their website, it's clearly two chapters. One thing is to get information about the product. You see beautiful videos how they do this, and then there's always the button buy. Always easy, because if you want to purchase it, then you're moved into a different space, and that's why they're also dividing this. And what we can see is also doing the survey that on the car space, it's not done like that. People get a little bit distracted if you look into the current automakers or OEMs, how they do this. They are confusing the people a little bit, putting after sales, putting all the different layers on top. So it's not that clearly divided as tech companies are doing. And that's why it's interesting what we see there, because if you want to look into this, the complete journey, how until they do this, we have to make it as streamlined, as you said, as convenient as possible. And that's why you need to first understand what are the phases of doing a purchase. And then take it from there and optimize it from there. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I won't ask you to comment on this because maybe some of these will be your customers. But recently, I was buying a car for my partner. I was looking. I did get one on a lease, but just trying to do a little bit of research online. Some of the manufacturer sites are horrible to get information from. Like scrolling through, I was looking at the Vauxhall site at one point, and they've got this really nice like Apple style parallax stuff. It's like makes you dizzy. You're scrolling, like I just want to know how many miles range this car's got, or I just want to know if it has Apple CarPlay, and it's giving me all of these things. So I think that there's a bit where possibly we're overcomplicating something, trying to blend those two worlds, as you say.
Exactly, and that's why it's important to let me say to put in the different phases of the overall experience. I mean, you roughly 100% of the people, let's say 97, 98% of the people start their complete journey online. Everybody does that. And then you immediately have this is the first thing that they're touching is the website. And now you already have the differentiator. What is the perception of that? Am I being immediately confused? Am I completely overloaded? Or do I have a guided experience going on there? So that's why it's important. Everybody starts basically online. And how do you make the development of the customer journey, how do you take it from there? And like I said, it's not digital to say buy it or not buy it. It's rather that we have the different phases, and we have we call it conversion gates, the different phases that you have to work on the conversion gates to guide the customer through these conversion factors in the different phases.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's a really clear piece that I think is missing in a lot of these manufacturer journeys. I mean, we did some work prior to Tomorrow's Journey, maybe nearly 10 years ago, on some online buying stuff with a German brand here in the UK, and we were looking at exactly that. We were saying that there's a number of stages here, and some customers may want to do all of those stages online, some may want to do some physical and some offline, but there are like clear gates, as you have written down, conversion gates. I think it's a really clear explanation of it, right? But you go, right, okay, I'm researching, and then I'm getting into the thing. I want to know what the deal is or what the price is, and then I get into a bit where I'm like, I want to experience it, but I probably can experience it virtually if I'm so inclined, and then I get into a bit about kind of closing those. These sort of, I don't, there's more of them, but these number of stages.
Exactly.
And I think it's, moving the customer through those is really.
And interesting enough is also that these different phases are also driven by, let me say, new kind of ways of experience, but then also old school. Like if it comes to a test drive, it's still a test drive. There are some. If you are interested in knowing how the car performs or how it behaves, you need to test drive it. Yeah. So that is how do I make this journey then from starting from an online, let me say, first glimpse of getting to know the brand, the car. How do I transport the complete customer journey seamlessly into a offline world of a test drive, and then put it back on again into in the purchase and again online. So that's why it's so complex. It's not as easy, and I think we discussed this already when we first met. I mean, if you buy pants at Amazon, you buy one size less, one size more, just to understand which one is going to fit. You're not going to do this with a car. You want to be on point with the configuration of the car, with the right engine, with the right setup, or even starting with the right brand. Yeah. What kind of brand do I want? And that's why that journey is complex, and you have to cater, or let me say, you understand how complex it gets if you see you have the different phases, conversion gates that you need to pass. If you take this as one layer, and then you take the next dimension of different customers, ages, and then the third dimension of digital natives or not digital natives. Do they want to go offline? Do they go online? So you have this complex three-dimensional matrix, so to say, and you have to design your customer journey accordingly, that you are catering to all these different kind of customers you might expect.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why online sales is so complicated, because you have those different demographics, and then also you've got the added layer of the complexity within the industry, because again, thinking, just going back a step to the point you just made, if you've got this kind of like online sort of learning and deal making, but then you want to test drive, you've shortlisted, you want to test drive, and then you go to a dealership, that dealership lives in a different world, because actually it's a different company.
Exactly.
I say this all the time when people go, oh yeah, I bought my car from Audi. No, you didn't. You bought it from a dealership, which is a different company. They're just a franchisee, and people don't really understand that. They say, well, I buy a car from Audi and I finance with Audi. Well, you don't. They're three different entities, right? So that in itself makes it difficult if a dealer is going to do an experience and then hand back. One of the things that we've experienced recently with our work we do with Hyundai on test drives is that we've opened up the test drive channel, which has been really successful, but then the dealers have been unhappy because they've had loads of salary sacrifice customers coming to them where they can't convert, because the dealer thinks about their own conversion and sale, not the brand's conversion and sale. So there's all of those complexities as well, isn't it?
Plus the other way around, if you see the automakers go in the direction of agency models, right? So they're looking for direct sales to the customers, and they're missing out on all these cross-sale and upsales potential. So either way you approach it, you have to look at it as a whole, and to see also from the perspective of the customer. I mean, you have these different interests now of third parties involved, financial suppliers or service suppliers doing the financials of it, or is it a platform that is doing leasing or renting or whatever. You have these different interests, but you have the focus has to be on the customer. So what is the customer view on on that journey? And this is what needs to be optimized.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really fascinating. And you mentioned also about the product, because that's another dimension. There's like 5 dimensions.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you've also got, if somebody's buying one for cash or like on some kind of purchasing financial product, you're going, okay, I'm keeping this car for an extended. It's my car. My name's going to be on the V5. Therefore, I feel like I want to make sure that I've got exactly the right trim. I've got exactly the right thing. When we talked, when we met. Before, I was saying I have a lease on a Lotus Electra. I've never even seen one before, and it's a really, really expensive car, but it's on a 2-year lease. I was like, I know it's a really nice car because a few people have told me about it, and I've read a bit online, and it's a good deal on a really nice spec. Oh, that'll do. And if I don't love it, then I've only got it for 2 years, and I'll change it. So it's like the commitment level can change how much people are into specifying the exact models and things as well. So you kind of overlay that with the demographic and the complexity of the industry.
And there you can see how complex it is. Yeah, exactly. So I'm not getting tired of that. But my experience or my past is in completely product orientated. So my past is really just down on the product, and I also see how the transition from combustion engine towards the electric age. you can see that technology becomes comparable. So the differentiator in the end or in the future will be brand, will be design, will be experiencing the customer experience that they have. And so the focus on of this, because in the past it was given, if you wanted to have a Porsche, okay, then you go to a Porsche, and nobody was, it's now it's important that the focus on the customer is in how do I lead my customer in his complete journey, as seamless, as high quality as possible, because there's no letting go. And I think also that the brand loyalty as it was in the past will not sustain in the future. Also seeing now all the different brands coming in from Far East, you can see that. I mean, they are just disrupting the complete infrastructure of OEMs or on brands on the market. And the cars look good, they perform good, they have awesome features. And so people start comparing and they're looking for the best deal. And if you lose them there, I mean, you're going to lose them once. You will not get them back.
Yeah, I think that's definitely key. Just as you were going into brand there is actually going to be one of my next questions anyway, which was about this like kind of, I don't know, feeling that there's a shift with customers towards the product rather than the brand. I don't know that the two things can be linked, but if people more making a comparable kind of match up really between the specification of the vehicle. This electric car does this many miles and it's this efficient and it has this technology in it and it looks good and I don't really care what the brand is anymore. I'm not just going, well, I'll always buy a VW because I've always bought a Golf and it's never let me down. Kind of like electric cars aren't going to let me down, whatever. And it comes down to sort of deal and convenience. But I do also going back to the online buying experience, that's where that's important. If you lose somebody on a website, going back to like one of our early points, someone's in there going, well, I'm looking to find out more about this car. I saw one driving past the other day or whatever. I just can't get the information. There's so much choice.
Absolutely.
You just go, right, that's cross that browser window and don't ever go back.
Exactly. So and this is part of the product itself. So meaning, how do I experience the product online? Do I have immersive possibilities? Do I have a configurator that is catering to a 3D experience, realistic view on the car in different angles, or am I even able to use my Apple Vision Pro going forward? Put it on. I mean, everybody's going to have in the future some kind of device that allows you, at least for this kind of technology, to experience products. And if you have the possibility to enter a car from just completely virtual and see in realistic view how this car is going to look like and how this car is going to feel like, I mean, this is amazing. So one thing is the product itself, and then the other thing is the service connected to it. So what is the financing of the product? What is the availability of certain things? So the transparency of everything that is connected around the product will be a driving factor. That I know exactly what am I buying, because it's a lot of money, a big amount of money that I'm spending, and that's why everybody wants to understand. Every single detail along that journey has to be transparent. And then you can also see, when you look into the overall situation of how do I produce a car from ordering until producing, you understand also what kind of IT infrastructure is behind. And if you want to guarantee a certain transparency to the customer, you're crossing different companies, financial services, the OEM, or the web provider or whatever. You have the availability. When do I get my car? If I order a new car, it could be, I don't know, between 8 weeks and 2 years, something like that. So you should be available. You should be able to understand, when do I get my car? And there are so many infrastructure that are connected and need to be made transparent, that immediately technology comes into the game. And this is where I say this is. I mean, just to have a seamless customer experience in front end. But there's so much connected to it in the back end that is it's complex and it's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's to do with your conversion gates almost, is that when you're moving through that bit, the thing around kind of like deal, price, availability. And when I was thinking about the leasing deals that I've been looking at recently, I went through, shortlisted the best deals, researched the cars the best I could on the terrible websites. But then it was like, right, okay, I've got these 3 I want to look at. I'm messaging the leasing company, and the first question is like, when can I have it? Yeah. And one comes back and says, like, it's 3 months, and one says 3 weeks. And I'm like, well, I need it kind of sooner rather than later. So I immediately discount the 3 weeks one. Yeah. So it's like, that's a key question when you come down your conversion gate, when you're getting closer in your decision funnel. But that, as you say, is such a hard thing to do, because someone would have had to ask a question to a dealer who has to go onto the system. We've done it, right? What's the thing where, okay, that's factory lead time, right? We know that it means it's going to be X number of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's hard to systemize that.
Exactly. And another good example is, for example, test drives. We touched that. If I want a test drive, how do I schedule a test drive? There could be an example that you're asking, I want a test drive, and you get as a feedback a contact form where you have to put in all the details that for your person. Everybody immediately says, oh, I don't want to do this,
Yeah.
But if you get immediately, I don't know, a window where you can schedule by yourself, this it's limiting or it's lowering the border to jump over for the customer. And that's why the focusing on these gates that you have to fulfill in the customer journey, they have to be as easy as possible for the customer to go through.
Yeah.
And that's why you have to and this is online and offline. This you have to balance.
Yeah, and it's a constant battle, and we only briefly touched on it earlier, so I can't even say that I paid you to drop in the test drive plug. But the project that we do for Hyundai is exactly that. And what they found is where the customer can schedule a direct time, so they're not filling in a form and waiting for a dealer to call back, that they get a much higher conversion of test drives.
Yeah.
So for getting sales, they do actually get better sales downstream. But from hitting the I want a test drive button, which used to go to a form and now goes to our platform, they're getting almost double the amount of test drives actually take place.
Yeah.
Because in that bit between and I do believe now dealers are good at calling the customer back. I believe that 90% of the time they're going to call them. But if they call in 20 minutes and the customer's now doing something else, they miss them. If the customer wants to change within our system, they can go in and cancel, rebook, do all of that stuff like you just would with any doctor's appointment and thing you can do.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden there's more test drives happening because the customer has more control. But I do think as an industry, we're scared of giving the customer control. Like I think generally, I was thinking when we first started talking about probably 15 years ago, I worked on a project when I was at JLR about putting a finance calculator on the website. It took a year to get the dealers to approve it because they're going, we don't want the customer to have the ability to see the quote. We want them to come into the dealership. And you're like, yeah, but everyone else is giving them the thing online. So it's this thing of like trying to keep control over the customer, but the more that happens, it's almost like it's blocking. It's a barrier for them, right? So
absolutely. You're completely right. And so it's not just a transformation of technology or evolving of it's also a changing of mindset that has to take place, especially for the classical OEMs. And that's why you can also see for EV startups that are doing just electric cars, their customer journey is much more seamlessly than from the classical OEMs, because there's a different mindset also in terms of coming with the technology. And this is very interesting to see, and this was part of the survey what we have experienced, and that's why you have different focus points along that journey that I think almost everyone has in its customer journey some potentials that need to be tackled, but they're just in a different space.
Yeah, less legacy complexity. I think also with some of the new market entrants, obviously I noticed their model lineups are more simple. So I guess we're thinking about your product background. I don't know if that's the thing that you see, but when you're looking at an SE plus something with a tech pack and a kind of BYD Seal has two trims.
Yeah.
That's it. They both have the same wheels. They both have the same spec. Just one's got heated and cooling seats and a panoramic roof, and that's it. It makes it nice and easy.
And I think from my personal experiences, both has its right to exist. So the simple one, but also the complex one. Especially also depending on you have a different you have a range in the product. You have a car that costs less, and then there's a car. There's an open end. The sky's the limit when it comes to money. And you also see people spending a lot of money on their car because they want to stand out. And again, coming to the complexity of the 6-dimension, 8-dimension grid. This is also a part. You have to cater to both of them. So how do I make it seamlessly even for the complex customer? Yeah. And if this then the solution is that he gets a very good peace of mind of the car, says, wow, this is sexy, I want exactly that kind of car, but maybe I need to change the color. And am I able to have this reflected in some kind of online configurator? Or I take him to the dealership and make his way to the dealership really, really easy somehow. So that's why, again, customer journey is not one fits all solution. It has to cater to the specific let me say, a customer experience that I need to in terms of customer.
Yeah, and the customer really should, kind of the thing we were mentioning earlier as well, the customer should really be able to sort of have that seamless handoff between online and physical and back again. When a customer's done a lot of the gates online, but then they go to the dealer for a certain part, the dealer should be able to see the gates they've been through in the process, and then to be able to come back online. I think it's complex, but it should be possible, and it helps the customer move through, right?
Everybody has seen it. I mean, it's just depending, you have to put this into place for that specific brand. I mean, you don't want to configure your car at home, then go to the dealer and have to do it again.
Yeah.
And remembering or print it out what my configuration was. Yeah. It's rather, how do I have a profile? Do I have a profile and just hand it over, or the customers entering the store and immediately being recognized, and you can pull up your configuration immediately, have it on a big screen, and see it one-to-one. How does it look like? And or using virtual kind of devices in the showroom that you walk around the car. I mean, it's kind of an experience to see a digital car, and we have developed that together with Apple and the Apple Vision Pro, where you basically have a car in the middle of the room, and you can walk around the car, you can see the shades, you can see how in realistic view. So it's really, really realistic. You can sit inside the car, that you feel the environment, you can really close up, you see the patterns on the leather and all these kind of things. It's a complete different experience than just 2D, and you don't know does the color exactly look like that or not? How's it reflecting and stuff? So this, as I said in the very beginning, since technology is evolving, you can have this reflected in your customer journey.
Yeah, definitely. And then there's physical things as well, like you said, like things like the color that it's hard to see online. You need to see it in real life or in the light to have that reflected digitally. I think one of the things also from my recent experience is size. It's hard to judge the size of it. Everything looks like an SUV now. Is it like the size of a Range Rover, or is it the size of they all look the same? I mean, one of the cars I looked at, because it was new into the market, the new Vauxhall Grandland. It looks like a Range Rover Sport, but it's about like 2/3 the size. But you can't tell in a picture. You're like, oh, okay, I need to see the size of this. Like, does it? And also, can I fit the thing I need to fit in the boot? Can I? And that's hard to do currently online with pictures. You have to either get all the dimensions out that I was doing and having to compare them on top of each other, or in a Apple Vision Pro type style where I can go, okay, right, I can see it, and I can see it on my drive or compared to my current car or those types.
And some things we know, and some things we also do not know. If you speak to car designers, they have the three major points on a car. If by deciding I like the car, I don't like the car, is proportion, and proportion. Okay. So, and how do I see proportion? If you map a car on a 2D space, the proportion you can barely really interpret. So that's why having this real proportion visible, and this comes to the virtual space, very, really good. This gives you a sensation of what proportion really means. When it comes to design, as a differentiator, as we said, as technology comes comparable, design is one of the driving factors.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think that's going to be the design and how that design fits with the user, because each person's going to have a preference to how it looks, but also to what their needs and requirements are for that vehicle. So I think that's definitely one that's got some work to be done. And one of the things I wanted to touch on, I think particularly because although our audience is relatively broad across auto, we do one of our sponsors works in the kind of asset finance space, but there was some stuff in your survey around looking at integration of third-party financing and stuff like that. That seems to be quite a key driver to online sales activity.
At least as an improving potential, because right now, if you go to OEMs, a lot of OEMs have their own finance products connected to it, or even banks completely to it. So at least they have financial services connected to it, but they're always very brand focused, and you don't have a comparison possibility. I said transparency for the customer, transparency and comparability. Again, coming back to Apple, you have the possibility to compare your products, to see what are they right next to each other, and this is also what the customer wants to do in terms of financing of the product. So just to run with one supply, one provider is always having this bad taste to it. Okay, what are the options? What kind of options do I have? And that's why the implementation of third parties is a fair point, and will cater in the end of the day to the better good of the customer. Comparability. You have more competition in the financing space as well. That's why we see especially from the dealers that are selling the cars to have additional products, not just branded products from financial service point of view, but also third party ones, as a good potential going forward.
Yeah, and I think financing is an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think if you're talking about new cars, typically the new car offers are somewhat supported by the OEMs, so typically tend to be the strongest offer. But I think customers don't necessarily understand that. So for having a comparison, as you say, gives them transparency. Okay, this is the Audi Financial Services product, and this is Lloyd's Bank. Okay, I can see that is the right product. But on used cars, I guess life gets more tricky, and I think a lot of not a rabbit hole to go down today, but there's a lot of stuff around the legislation, commissions, all of those things are becoming tricky. So I think that's going to become more in the customer's mind, to making sure they're not feeling like they're getting ripped off on the financing. So
exactly, and that's why again transparency. As you buy a flight online, you want to see do I have to pay for my extra luggage? Do I have to pay for the extra seat, or if I want to choose a seat, do I need to pay for it? So the transparency of all the different steps connected to my buying of the car has to be transparent for the customer. Yeah,
definitely. And I think it's the thing in Europe we do a lot, although we're always under pressure as an industry for it. I think we do a lot better than other markets. So we operate in the Middle East and US, and a lot of these things are different and kind of managed less tightly in some areas. And I do think it's the thing that we benefit from here, is that kind of transparency, or the transparency that has to be given to a customer. But I think it still needs more, because so there's a lot of stuff, and the confidence of the consumer is tricky in that space.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really interesting one. One of the things also I wanted to touch on is actually just going back a step for one of the things we were covering, is just how you think some of the new types of business models might help some of these products to evolve. Thinking about things like car subscriptions, the thing we're interested in more, maybe even kind of leasing, as mentioning before, about kind of short-term leases, of how that might or might not affect customer buying online. Does it somewhat simplify some things? Does it add complexity?
I think you mentioned in the very beginning. Again, I think the need of the dedicated or of the subjective customer has to be reflected in the customer journey, and we have to have this reflected there. If somebody is looking for a car for 2 years, what is the best model for him? Is it leasing? Is it buying? What is the financial impact of that? So how, even if he might not be sure, what is my, I have just a use case. So kind of model agnostic, rather thinking in solutions. So saying, I don't know, I need a car for the next 3 years, and it has to cater to this and this and this kind of purpose. Tell me, what is the best model for me? Is it leasing? Is it buying? What kind of car? So looking into more like a guided, maybe also with AI as it comes into play. I can ask, what do you think would be the best solution for my use case that I need? Yeah. So think of that. Then you can see how these different layers come into play, especially using technology like artificial intelligence, helping the customer to find the right solution, the best solution for him. This is where I see all the biggest potential with the large language models coming in. More trust is gained in that space by using this. Everybody uses ChatGPT now, and it will become more having. You can also see it's very interesting. If you look into OEMs right now, they have chatbots connected to it. Yeah. But honestly, if you try them out, you can see that they're not very the answers are not very comprehensive, and you lose immediately your trust into that. But once this is getting much better or is improved, you gain also the trust into the technology, and then you can also with this big decision of mobility, you would also rely on the answer coming in. I mean, today getting here, I asked the TFL app how to get here. Yeah. How do I get here? And it gave me an answer, and I trusted in that. Why is that? Because I tried it many times and it works. And this is just a small example of how technology is supporting my way as a customer, and it will become more evident also in the mobility space when it comes to cars.
Yeah,
same thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the AI thing's a really interesting one. I mean, we've recently just launched an AI agent in our products for exactly that challenge you talked about. But firstly, before it launched, I wrote an article about chatbots, and basically all of them in the industry go, great, thanks for your question. Would you like to arrange an appointment with our consultant? It's back to my point of like trying to get control. I don't want to give you any answers because I don't know what you might do with it. I want to get you on the phone to someone to talk, which is not ideal. But I do think that you can, and certainly in the stuff that we're doing, people are going to, you're talking about it this morning, of saying all the challenges of getting automotive sales online, everything's been online sales for 15 years. The next bit is going to be conversational commerce. And by the time we've caught up as an industry and got online sales, everyone's just going to be typing into ChatGPT, can you recommend me the best air fryer? And they go, yeah, here's the 5 thing. And you go, okay, I want one that's quite cheap, but also has a 5-year warranty. Yeah, here you go, it's this one, great. Buy. And like that will be the process, right? And we'll still be working out on finance calculators.
I'm just saying, be cautious, not to forget that there are more customers out there than just the digital natives.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
For example, my mom, she's 82 years old, and she just wanted a new car. And you can imagine if I tell her, please go to ChatGPT and find out what would be the best car for you. She said, she would say, I don't want to say what she would have said, but she is the one that still goes to the dealer, wants a comprehensive, telling. So don't forget that this is still that still remains, and that customer journey is also valid, and you have something in between. We said it before, and some people they get information offline, then buy online. The other one is doing everything online. The other one is information online and then buying offline. So that's why, again, don't underestimate that there's a lot of people out there that might not be 100% going the digital way. And that's why, again, that the complexity of that customer journey isn't so easy that everything can be handled just by tech. It has to be put the customer in the focus, and then aligning to what the customer needs, that journey accordingly.
Yeah, definitely. I think definitely there is that. Obviously we have more and more digital natives coming through, sure. And I think that's the bit to kind of be mindful of. But I'm totally with you about one of the examples we used when we met. First off, I was saying when we were looking at a kiosk product for rental in Dubai Airport, and I was in Dubai Airport about to use the passport scanner, and there was an older guy who was like waving his passport in front of the camera, not knowing why it didn't work. And you kind of remember that there's different people. Whilst I know, because I've been to a million airports, you put your passport on. Actually, not everybody knows that. Why would you if you hadn't, or if you're not digital native? So you've got to have that bit. My mum did ask me recently about, she was asking for she was wanting to know something. She had knee replacement. She was like, what should I do about this thing? So can you ask that robot? So I said, ChatGPT, yes, Mum, I can do it. I was like, you can do it on your own phone. No, you ask the robot. So she's a bit of fear of talking to the robot. So there is definitely a bit of that. But I do think the kind of conversational commerce part, the power of these tools, and so where we've been exploring and playing with it can really help. Or also potential to augment some of the physical activity as well. We were talking the other day about an application for the tool where it could use voice, where in a conversation like this, we're in a sales environment and I'm saying, how many miles do you do a year? Okay, right, interesting. Could suit a leasing product. The product is listening and organising the offers in the background. So there's a bits of kind of augmentation you can do with AI as well.
You can do this all over the place. There's this obvious, as you said right now, but it's also, how do I get, as soon as the car is being purchased, who does the briefing on the car? Yeah. So, a car is still a complex product. It's not just, it doesn't have one switch. It's very complex. And you have all these fancy features now in the car. So somebody has to explain to you the features. They have videos. You can do this in YouTube. But if somebody's explaining this to you, would be the better way. So now again, who's doing that? Could this be a digital assistant? Yeah. Could that be done with augmented reality? Could that be done with completely artificial? Or is that a physical person? So again, there is so much room. How do I do this, and then how do I fit that into the end-to-end solution as a customer journey, as I said it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a really good example about one of the benefits of the technology is about creating consistency. So again, you and I have been around the industry for a long time. We know that particularly in the dealer world, there can be lots of different, you can go into two different dealerships next to each other with the same logo above the door and get different experiences. I'm not saying good or bad, but you would just get handled in a different way. And something like a vehicle handover done, produced centrally, optimized with some kind of AR, VR video combination could mean that everybody getting into their brand new electric vehicle, which might be totally different to them, gets a full vehicle handover. And particularly we're in the world where things are now becoming remote deliveries. You know, you take a vehicle on lease, like I did, it just gets delivered to my house by a really lovely chap from the vehicle delivery company. Yeah. But he didn't give me a walk around of the new Ford Explorer because he was delivering something else that morning. So having a consistent tool for that brand to be able to deliver it is really interesting.
And as in the real world, then when it becomes interesting, you know, how do you do the handover? You know, what are the interfaces between these different kind of steps that you have? You still have someone who's producing the car. You are focusing rather on the service, but you're still having a car. How do you define these interfaces? And this is exactly where we as a company come also into play. You know, why are we in the space? Why do we do the service like this? It's exactly how to define the best interfaces in between, because we have a lot of OEMs who are exactly asking for that. How can I, you know, between the data, because then there's also data. There are data of a customers. How do I, you know, create a consistent technology service, technology-driven journey that is running in the background to link these different steps: data, product, customer. How do I do this? And this is exactly the space where I don't think that OEMs can handle this only by themselves. There needs to be support as an implementation partner with all the other service suppliers that are. So this implementation has to be done and has to be performed by somebody. I don't think that the OEMs going forward will be able to manage this on their own.
Yeah, definitely. There needs to be a bit of kind of best practice learning. I mean, every manufacturer is different in how they handle their data and all of those things. But also, if you started out, I mean, what we've covered in the last 45, 50 minutes, you start with a blank sheet of paper in an OEM today and go, right, how are we going to do online sales? Like, there's a lot of groundwork that you guys have already done in learning, like, the principles of. So you go, okay, right, how do we apply these principles to your specific brand and to your data set and to your customers and your dealer setup and all of those things, right?
And that's why I'm a big friend of these technology and infrastructure agnostic approaches, rather on solutions. So where do I want to go to, and then look into what kind of infrastructure do I have? You know, what do I find? Is it a rather, you know, a legacy OEM who has, you know, really old style, you know, being in the transformation? How do I cater to that? Or do I have a complete new startup of delivering cars that is exactly having not that kind of experience out of past decades? And that's why I said, come from the solution, come customer orientated, and helping the customer in order to have that seamless journey.
Yeah, perfect. And I think that's in a way, as I was just about to say, we should probably start to sum up. That was the perfect kind of summary to it. But before we finish, I always like to ask the guests a little bit about kind of what they're thinking about the future. I mean, we've been talking about the today and the kind of cutting edge of the technology side of things today. But what kind of trends are you guys seeing, thinking about? What's on your minds for the next kind of 12, 18 months? Where do you see things?
So what we see is that, I mean, the technology is becoming more and more something that is also accepted. You know, it's not just to be have talking items in place. We have a customer that is just last year launched a store which has a complete seamless integration of virtual reality with a one-to-one power screen where you can see your car on. And so this is the first thing that he did, that they did. But we've been asked to do something similar also for other OEMs, because they see how this is working, what kind of feedback they get from the customer. It's even measurable. I mean, OEMs have good business cases in selling options. You know, the more options you put in a car, the better it is for the OEMs. And what we can see is with the immersive technology moving in, that the amount of options in the car can be are raising by 15 to 20%. In terms of in terms of business case. So it's also becoming a business case for the OEM to do so, and that's why I say technology is becoming more and more, and you don't have to carry around a big a big chunk of technology to have a virtual experience. I mean, the Apple Vision Pro I take it just one example. I don't want to do for Apple, but just saying it's a standalone product. You put it on your glasses. You don't have a computer. You don't have anything to carry around with you. It's online. It's available. Everything is in the cloud. So this is what we're seeing, that that this becomes more and more something that you can also use. I mean, we have even a customer journey for an OEM that is sending these Apple Vision Pros to their customers, because the customers cannot come in and they spend a whole lot of money on the car, but they don't have any time, so they are being sent an Apple Vision Pro, and then they look onto this and they see their car, how it looks like, and they're blown away by this experience. And this is why I said we are looking into this. How do you create the reality? I mean, technology has to evolve. That means also the quality of the renderings that you can see has to come with it. So the data preparation, the quality of the models, seamless. There shouldn't be no latency if you have the products in the cloud. So this is the thing. What we're seeing is that this becomes more and more effective, and also seen. OEMs are not. They want to invest in their configurators because they see this added value from their customer point of view. So that's why I see 18 months going forward. I mean, it's basically nothing, if you ask me. But this is if you want my 5 cents on this, this is exactly where it's going to go.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah, love to see it, and it'd be a great thing to experience that using those products. I think it's fantastic way to visualize your future car. So. Exciting to see that come to market. Bodo, thanks very much for your time. Really appreciate you coming in. We really enjoyed the conversation. As it's the end of every episode, but we'll probably chat to you for about 3 hours about this topic. It's super interesting. And I hope you enjoyed listening today. If you did enjoy it, the rest of the episodes are available through our podcast channels, also on our YouTube channel. So subscribe to your channel of choice. Thanks for listening. See you again next time.